Start at the top. Rich Berlandi.
I'm here.
Thank you. Dave Fox.
I'm here, still stuck in my basement.
Robert Eisner.
Here.
Mark Simpson.
Present.
Ned Stachin.
Here.
Jay Tulin.
I am here.
And Robert Hannon.
I'm here.
And for the record, Guy Wolf and Emily Brick are absent this evening. Okay. So it's all yours, Mr. Hannon.
All right, so 7 o'clock, we'll call the Inland Wetlands Commission meeting for September 16th, 2020 to order. And just make it clear that we'll have Rich fill in for Guy. So we have our full 7 members for this commission. And with that, we will start with the first item on the agenda, 8468 Maple Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commission members. My name is Sev Bovino from Gratzer Jones and Associates, represented the applicant. Since the last meeting, we have modified the plan and resubmitted it, showing that we removed the roof leader in the southeast corner of the property and the riprap, and we substituted that with the underground storage on the northeast corner. We have also developed a new easement map that was requested to make things easier to be able to describe the proposed easements. So we submitted a new map with that, so everybody will have an easier time reading the easement and the bearing and distances on it. The new owner that purchased the house next door at 128 Farmington Avenue agreed to provide the easement. So it's a matter that the attorneys are working on the details for that, but yeah, they have an agreement. Also, we provided the function and value report from David Lord. Hope the commission had a chance to review that. And so at this point, unless you have any questions, I think we provided everything that we were asked. We responded to the comments of the town engineer and planning staff. I cannot hear you, Mr. Chairman.
That's because I did not unmute my phone. So Rich, any questions or comments?
No, I don't have any questions.
Dave?
I'd just like to thank you for the underground infiltration of the roof runoff. I had questioned about that, and that happened. And I did read the function and value report. It gave me some peace of mind about the impact to the wetlands. And, you know, I'm ready to go forward with it. I was curious about the number of posts that are going to be displaying the conservation easement. They weren't labeled on the map that I looked, the plan that I looked at, but it looked like there maybe were 5 of them, like spaced evenly throughout. Am I looking at that correctly?
We will install whatever number of posts the town is satisfied with. We have no precise amount that we.
Okay.
So it's up to the commission. We thought those would be enough, but if you need more, we will put more.
Well, I really blew up the plan, and it looks like there's little boxes that show where they are, and that seems to be, if I'm looking at it correctly, that's very adequate in my mind, anyway. And my last question, which I asked last time, I was wondering if DEEP ever got back to you on the NDDB request.
No, we didn't receive any correspondence.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Robert?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Mark,
No questions.
Ned,
I just want to confirm that you're okay with all the items for consideration from the town regarding the planting and that the town shall be there to observe the test pit?
Yeah, whatever the Bruce has on his common checklist, we're okay with it, yes.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Jay,
I don't have any questions. I'm good. Thank you. You're muted, Bob. You're
the one
muted.
question I have is if there is a motion to go forward, and this is really for you, Shannon, there's what, 5 items identified under number 14? Those are sort of
Correct.
the conditions that we're talking about?
Correct. Yeah, really there's 4, because E is just anything else that would be discussed among the commission,
Okay.
and it doesn't sound like
All
there's
right.
really any 4,
Okay.
plus the engineering comments.
All right, and then, the one thing that I will say is I was happy to actually see the work that was proposed in the wetlands. I think that is going to actually make a significant difference on this property and the neighbor's property as far as flooding. So that's something that I was glad to see. So that's the extent of my comments. So we have already accepted the application.
No.
Did we render we did render a non-significant activity, correct, Shannon?
Correct. That was done at the first meeting in September
Okay.
on the 7th. Yep.
All right.
So all that's before us this evening is voting. That's all that's left.
Okay, so Chair will entertain a motion. Would somebody care to make one?
This is Ned Stachin. I'll make a motion to approve the application tied into the items for consideration in item 14 of the town's recommendations.
This is Jay, second.
All right. There's a motion on the floor. I'll go around quickly and ask if people have questions or comments on it. Rich,
No questions.
Dave,
I'm set.
Robert,
No questions.
Mark,
No questions.
Ned,
No questions.
Jay?
Nope, I'm good.
No, I have no questions either. So those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Hey,
Opposed? Abstaining? Good luck with the project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and everybody for your help in this endeavor. Good night.
Luck.
good luck. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Next up, item on the agenda is 86 Birdseye Road, and I do want to apologize for people. I had an emergency come up with one of my clients, so I was in Manchester instead of in Farmington on Saturday morning.
That's okay. There wasn't this one that we went to see, Bob, but, so
Okay.
we're good. It was one further down.
Okay,
And I got a chat comment. Oh, we're good. Sorry. All set. And I think we've got Jim Cassidy on the line.
Yeah, for the record, this is Jim Cassidy with the engineering firm of Halsey, Pearson and Cassidy. Justin Packard is with me this evening. He's also labeled as Jim Cassidy. He did the presentation last month, so I'm going to let him pick up on this. I believe at last month's meeting, we went through a full presentation on this application, and the commission decided not to do a field walk. So I don't know if you wanted, the commission wants another full presentation, or if there's just any questions we need to answer at this point.
I don't think we need another full presentation. I mean, if you want to just quickly hit the highlights.
Justin, can you give them an overview?
Yeah, no problem. So just quickly, The only wetlands that are located near the property are actually to the southwest of our property that are highlighted in the light blue, as you can see on the screen here. They're about 60 feet off the property line of our 86 Bird's Eye Road. We're proposing about 7,500 square feet of disturbed area in the upland review area. That's for a flattened lawn area off the side yard of the proposed house. We're proposing to keep all the grades the same in that area. And the only area other than lawn in that 7,500 square feet is the small area of driveway where it connects in with the existing driveway for 88 Bird's Eye Road. We are proposing an underground infiltration system to the rear of the proposed house. This is proposed to connect into the roof leaders, and it relies solely on infiltration as an outlet. And it's designed to handle a 2-year, 24-hour rain event for the area of the roof of the proposed house. And then on the other side of the property, on the northeastern corner, we are proposing a stone berm that's about 4 feet high that will collect all the runoff from the swale that collects most of the runoff from the driveway as well. And it'll flow through that berm to kind of control the discharge going to the neighboring properties to the northeast. As I mentioned last time, the property actually slopes away from the wetlands. So the high point at the property is in the southwestern property line, and it all flows to that northeastern corner. So that berm kind of provides us with a little bit of storage area for higher intensity rain events, and it also provides us with some filtration of the runoff as it goes to the neighboring properties, and just in a more controlled manner. So that's pretty much everything that we have on the project that entails stormwater runoff, anything like that. So if there's any other questions from last meeting, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, thank you. So again, we'll start with Rich. Any questions or comments?
No, I have no questions or comments.
Dave?
I see that we've added a consideration of a conservation easement on the remaining wooded area to the south. I was wondering people's thoughts on that. Since the land is sloping away from the wetlands, I guess it's not as critical. We do have that, and it looks like maybe it's about like 60 feet from the wetlands to the property line, and then another 40 to the lawn area. So even if we don't have the conservation easement, we would have still 60 feet of wooded area. Whoever has any thoughts on that, I'd be interested in. That's it for me.
Okay. Robert?
Yeah, I was thinking the same lines as Dave Fox, that the conservation easement, because this is sort of an isolated lot, it doesn't really connect with anything else. It could be less of, it could be a smaller distance for the conservation easement, because there is adequate separation even from the property line to the wetland. So I'd be comfortable if it was a reduced area for the conservation easement. And then the other staff comment that I wanted to hear if the applicant had any comment on was the recommendation to relocate the underground infiltration system.
Yeah, so the original comment about relocating the underground infiltration system is for our first proposal, we actually had it coming out to the northeastern corner of the property where we were proposing the berm. And per talking with Bruce Sear of the town, he recommended that we move it to the rear of the house so that it wasn't discharging onto the neighbor properties. And we actually changed that infiltration system so that it's solely infiltration, so it's not actually discharging out from the system. So the only runoff that'll be coming from the property is through that 2-foot high crushed stone berm in the frontage of the property. So we actually already relocated that per Bruce Sear's original comment.
Okay, thanks, Jim. That's helpful. Those are the only comments I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mark?
I have none.
Ned? Unmute, Ned.
Thank you. Just look at this conservation easement idea. So we're looking at like 40 feet from where they have like that, they call it out the 40-foot side yard. I mean, are you looking at that area to,
So it's up for discussion. So, yeah, yes, I think I had said the remaining wooded area on the property is over a portion of the wooded area, remaining. So whether it's this line or somewhere in between, or
Yeah.
just the property line, whether or not you want easement markers posted. So it's, obviously not up in here because they intend to use it for lawn. So it's just whether or not the commission would like to see any conservation easement markers at any point on that edge.
okay. And the question is on the north end of the property where you have the steep grade coming off of the driveway, is there a plan for like protection out of erosion or anything like that in that area?
For the construction stages, we are proposing silt fence and hay bales in that area. That was a comment that Bruce here made, and we updated the plans accordingly for that. In terms of the slope itself, we really don't have any space on that property line to reduce the slope and keep the house where we have it. So if the town felt it was necessary, we could definitely implement something more long-term.
Okay, that's all I have right now.
Okay. Jay?
I don't have any questions.
I'll just follow up on part of the conversation in terms of a conservation easement. I mean, I can see dropping it down too. I really wouldn't have any problems with that, so that may be something that we want to think about. And I think right now, Shannon, it's about 40 feet,
Correct.
at least on the south side?
Hey, Karen?
Correct, because it's the 40-foot side yard setback that's running right here. So you've got 40 feet, and then the balance over here is 60 feet.
And what's the zoning setback requirement?
So the zoning is 40 feet. So the zoning
Okay,
setback is 40 feet. And for zoning regulations, typically any shed or accessory structure has to be behind the longest wall of the house. So it would be, anywhere back here is where any accessory structure would go unless they requested an easement to use, a variance to use this side area for an accessory structure, such as a shed, a pool, that type of thing. We don't regulate play yards and that type of thing.
But based on the upland area, the upland review area, that comes pretty close to the edge of the house, correct? So
Correct.
any work being proposed in that lawn, the proposed lawn area, they would need to come back to us, assuming this is approved, they need to come back to us before going ahead and doing any construction there, correct?
Correct. Typically what we've been doing is if it's something like a shed or an above-ground pool, then it's been proceeding with an agent review because it's an area that's already been disturbed. And so we typically handle that as an agent review and the filing in the newspaper, and then they proceed. If it's an in-ground pool and something that's requiring notable excavation and or tree removal, then it comes back to you folks.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. So based on what I'm seeing in front of me, actions by the commission is we need to make a determination as to significance of this activity. So start in order just to get your feedback. Rich?
I don't see this as a significant activity.
Dave?
I don't either.
Robert?
Agree, non-significant. There's no direct impact and minimal indirect impact to the wetlands.
Mark?
Non-significant.
Ned?
Yeah, I agree. I think I give them credit for keeping the footprint of the house outside of the 150-foot upland review area, and I thank them for that, and I don't see it as as significant. Do not.
Jay?
Yeah, I agree. I don't see it as significant either.
I'm also in agreement. So does somebody want to make a motion to determine this to be a non-significant activity?
So moved by Robert.
Second by Mark.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. I'm not going to ask for comments or questions because everybody was pretty clear about what they wanted. So those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, and what's your pleasure on the application? Do you feel so we have enough information to vote on it this evening? And if so, what conditions might you be considering? So does somebody want to start off with a motion?
Yeah,
Somebody was going that route.
Before we move for or put a motion on the table, I think the one thing we should talk about is whether we want to stay with the proposed 40-foot conservation easement or if that should be reduced.
Fine, I agree. It's not a problem. I mean, I'll stick my 2 cents in. I'm thinking more if we put it down to about a 25, but trying to blend in sort of the southeastern corner, just as a way to just try to maintain a buffer between people. But I can see going down to about a 25 footer. I don't know how other people feel, but that's kind of where I'm at with it.
This is Ned Stach, and I think the 25-foot is reasonable.
Robert, agree. It gives the homeowner a little more flexibility once they move into the home.
Yeah, I mean, and again, the one thing I would say is where you see it proposed very close to the driveway along the southeastern property line, I kind of like to keep that point. I mean, they may be able to narrow it some, because I don't think you need that entire corner the way it's currently laid out, but still maintain some of the trees in that area just for some privacy.
So, Bob, just to clarify, that demarcation is just showing the existing tree line that's to remain. So the darker green isn't really a proposed conservation easement area. It's solely a existing tree line to remain.
Yeah, but
So
if you
we
move
could
right
take
there about where you have the hand, yeah, down in that area, that's all part of the conservation easement that's currently before us, right?
there isn't, so all I did was offer it as a comment.
Okay,
There is, the applicant did not propose one.
all right.
I offered it as a comment saying, because what the conversation that took place at the last meeting was how about putting some markers in that said, you know, no tree clearing, except, you know, something along those lines, and that was the discussion at the last meeting. Well, we either put a conservation easement over it or we don't. And so I just put it out there as a pickup from the conversation that took place at the last meeting amongst the commission members. So the applicant hasn't proposed one. I've offered it as a suggestion, as a follow-up to the conversation from the September 2nd meeting.
Okay, and I guess where I was going with that is where you have that corner close to the driveway and it's about a 45-degree angle out. I don't think it needs to be a 45-degree angle. It can probably be something less to maybe tie into a 25-foot along the southwestern corner. That's all. I just don't think we need as much in that area.
Well, we should, because I mean, the home that's in front of it already you've got the home and the existing driveway is already there, so.
Right.
If we were to try, my thought would be to come straight across, you know, whatever that's discussed, unless there's a huge driving need to do something, but there's nothing up here to protect. I'd simply come straight across and make
that was gonna be my
simplify
suggestion.
the dimensions.
Just to go parallel to that property line on the south side, just 25 feet from that.
No.
So just on the southern property line?
Yeah, just use, why
Correct.
not go
'Cause that's
parallel to that?
right.
And
I do have upland area here, but I mean, up in here, there's no upland, there's no regulated area up there.
So what are people's thoughts about the 25-foot wide conservation easement just across the southwestern corner of the property?
That seems reasonable to me. It's Dave.
This is Rich. That 25 foot would pretty much cover any of the property that actually drains to the wetlands. So I could support the 25 foot distance.
Robert?
Agree.
Okay.
This is Mark, I agree.
Okay.
Can we double check with the, because I don't know that we asked the applicant about the comments, so I just want to make sure there's no.
Yeah, this is Jim Cassidy. I'm okay with it if you want to make it a condition of the approval.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we've worked that out between us. So with that being the case, does somebody want to make a motion? And that would include items under number 8, but specifically identifying the width of the conservation easement, which is not in condition A or 8A.
Robert, I'll move to approve application IW 2017 with the 5 conditions as applicable as recommended by staff, with the modification that condition A be a 25-foot conservation easement running parallel to the southerly property line.
Is there a second?
David?
second,
I think Dave snuck in.
okay.
So again, just quickly go around for any comments or questions. Rich,
No comments, questions.
Dave,
All set.
Robert,
That
Mark,
I'm good.
Ned,
I'm good.
Jay?
Yeah, I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, as am I. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the application with the conditions outlined in item 8 in the report and specifying a 25-foot conservation easement. So those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Good luck with the project.
Thank you
Thank
for your time.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick look. I don't know. Yep. All right.
So you driving this one, Shannon?
No, actually,
Or is the City of New Britain online?
I can start, and Seb Amenta is on in case there's questions regarding, you know what, Seb, go ahead. You got it. The plan's up. Just do a quick run through, and we'll go from there so the commission can decide how to proceed.
Okay, Sebastian Amenta with Comprehensive Environmental. We're doing the geotech work for the City of New Britain and CDM Smith. They're basically proposing to extend the water main from Hamilton Way to 2 Mile Road on Batterson Park Road. And what you have before you is basically the boring location plan. All the borings will be done in the street, in the pavement. There's nothing outside the pavement. The borings are going to go 10 feet deep, actually 12 feet when they do the sample from 10 to 12. And it's just a precursor to the design of the water main. When the water main design is done, we'll be back with the full application with that project. So this is solely to do the borings within the road to move the project forward. The project is funded by the state Department of Health through their DWSRF program. And it's about 2,300 feet of water main and 8 soil borings that are proposed within the area. And I think there's only 2 in the upland review area Most of the other ones are out, right? 5 and 8, Shannon?
Correct.
Yeah, those are the only ones that are close, but they are in the roadway, so we're not actually in the grass or anywhere. And the drilling is a auger type drilling. There's no water used, there's no mess. Part of the application, we show that we will use a silt sock just in case, more for dust or something else that may migrate. And when they're done, they'll sweep everything clean and patch the road accordingly. The cuttings will go into the hole. Any excess cuttings will be removed off site. So pretty straightforward boring project if you've seen one before.
Okay, so we're looking at whether or not this is an activity that's permitted as of right. Is that where we're going with this one right now, Shannon, or we need to
Correct.
make that decision
Yeah,
and accept an application?
Yep, so whether either it's permitted as of right, or if it really rises to the level of requiring a permit, based on the permit requirements in section 4C and discussions of earth activities, you know, all activities in wetlands or watercourses or upland review areas involving filling, excavation, dredging, clear cutting, grading, and any other alteration or use of a wetland or watercourse not specifically permitted as of right. So it doesn't neatly fit into a permitted as of right category, but I think we could, aside from that, you could look at it and say, does it rise to the level of a disturbance that warrants a permit? So it's really for the commission to discuss, and if not, you know, Sebastian has submitted an application, so you can, you know, accept the application, and then we'll go on to the next meeting if that's what the commission feels we need to do.
Okay, thank you. Again, continuing order, Rich, any questions, comments?
No, I don't have any questions. The work, I mean, as far as doing borings, it's going to be short-term duration, you know, maybe a day at each boring. And if you left to go to work in the morning in normal times and came back in the afternoon, you wouldn't know they'd done it, except for a little circle in the ground. So I would kind of feel it doesn't rise to the level of needing a permit.
Okay,
That's
Dave?
it.
Yeah, I think I would agree. It doesn't rise to the level because it's not either filling or excavation, because what they drill out, they're going to put back. So it's kind of like not even an activity.
Okay, Robert?
I lost my internet connection, so I dropped off during the presentation. I didn't hear the overview, so I don't have an opinion at this time.
Art?
No, nothing from me.
Ned? You're on mute.
I think soil borings are pretty standard procedure and very little in the way of disturbing the land, and especially since they're going to be in the roadway. So I don't think this is an activity. This should be a permitted activity.
Okay, Jay?
I'll go along with everyone else. This is another facet of my education, so I appreciate and kind of just absorbed everyone else's comments, and I'll go along with everybody else. Thank you.
The only question I have is, did you say that this is being required by the Department of Public Health?
The project is funded by the Department of Public Health to extend the water main. This is within the New Britain Water Department service area in Farmington. So, but they did obtain funding from the Department of Health. What it'll do is it'll improve the water quality within the area and provide redundancy, because it's only one water main serves the area now. So if it breaks, you'll have a problem. This way it'll create a loop with South Road on the other side.
Okay, so they are trying to complete a loop then on this?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any other questions, and I honestly don't see this as that big of a deal. So I guess my question to people, I know a number of people had mentioned that they don't see this rising to a permitted level. Shannon, do we need to make a motion to that effect?
I think it'd be helpful so that we all have it for the record.
Okay.
Makes
This
it
is
clean.
next action. I make a motion that this activity of the soil borings is permitted as of right.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Mark
it. This is
Okay, I'll
Rich.
second.
I'll
Or-
leave
or
the
Rich.
second to you, Shannon.
Got it.
Okay.
I heard Rich, so Rich Berlandi's gonna get credit for that.
When ready, so Rich can
Okay.
second.
So we have a motion on the floor to treat this as a permanent activity. Any questions or comments? And actually, I'll go to you first, Robert, because I know you said you lost the internet connection. So just wondering what your feeling might be on that.
Yeah, based on the conversation, I would agree that it's not a significant activity. It's not a regulated activity.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you were on board with what we were saying. So with that
Yes,
being the
thank you.
case, we have a motion to treat this as an activity permitted as right. So those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Good luck with the borings.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All righty. Thank you. Okay. There we go. Gotta clean up some of my drawings here. All right, here's the one we're looking for.
So the next item is 15 Pond Road, correct?
Correct. And I believe, let's see who's on here.
Attendees is Omar.
Yeah, let me just check to make sure everybody, so Jonathan's on and Omar, I will promote the panelists so they can talk.
Could you
Okay,
enlarge that, Shannon?
yeah, I can.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Yeah. Yeah, I grabbed, this is the as-built survey, so I had that with me on Saturday morning. And what it does is it's the house as constructed. It still shows the wetland delineation and the limit of wetlands. So the homeowner is on, and their attorney is on. I can see on the,
And the homeowner is Mr. Jones?
yeah, he and his partner Tanisha Lambert are own the home. I believe Tanisha, Tanisha's at work tonight?
Yes, she is. She's at work tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we discussed this at the meeting, Bob, because she works second shift. We explained that she herself doesn't necessarily have to call in for each of these meetings, because every time she's got to take the shift off, the night off, in order to do that. So we explained as long as someone was there on her behalf to listen and discuss and participate in the conversation, then that was okay. So, so we did the walk on Saturday, and I did follow up with the meeting notes, and I think what we also discussed, sorry, the computer here is being a little funny on me, hang on. There we go. We discussed some trees that had come down during the storm, as well as some of the underbrush that had been removed as part of trying to, the homeowner trying to make some use of the yard. Some of that was just stockpiled here on the edge. So it was discussed at the meeting that could be removed by hand and taken to our transfer facility at Tunxus, our compost facility at Tunxus. So I followed up with the homeowners in writing on Monday so that they had that in writing, that they could go ahead and remove this material. I provided the link for the compost facility, so they, because there's limited hours, et cetera, and driver's licenses are needed for verification. So that information was shared with the homeowner. You know, we walked it on Saturday morning. We had the telephone poles as reference. We came back, we got somewhere up into this area of the property, and then continued our walk back down towards the street. Total time was about 20 minutes roughly on the property. The swale has been disturbed a little bit, so that probably needs to be reestablished. And I'm going to say it's probably up to about probably the front 20 to 30 feet has been seeded. I'm using a rough estimation based on what we saw. So there's some lawn has been established roughly up to this point. The rest of it is, at this particular point in time, is disturbed soil. So I think it's for the commission to start a discussion as to, in general, what they would like to see for a type of restoration activity, if that portion that has been seeded can remain, or they want the entire area restored with plantings. At this point, I think a little direction is needed so the homeowner can start to react as to what their next steps need to be.
All right, Rich, I hate to put you on the spot, but I guess we'll start with you. Keep things consistent.
Okay. I'm kind of wondering if any wetland resource people have taken a look at this and come up with any recommendations as far as what would be involved in restoring this area.
So I had not directed them to start that yet, given the nature of the conversation at the last meeting and the commission wanting to do the site walk. I have not provided any direction with respect to that because I wanted to get a little more feedback from the commission at this particular point in time, so that trying to reduce the number of iterations back and forth a little bit.
Understood. Yeah, I'm with the other properties that have come before us in recent months. I think that's kind of the direction that we seem to have been headed in the past. That's my comment.
Okay. Dave?
I guess I would agree that some wetland expertise should take a look at it in terms of the value of the resource and the likelihood of coming up with a nice restoration plan. I would think that at least some of the fill has to be removed and some plantings have to be done, but I'm really not sure the extent of that work. That's it.
Robert?
Well, first, I'll say that I do feel bad for the property owners because I believe what was represented in the prior meeting, that they were misled by the developer and the seller of the property, which is unfortunate. However, that could be a private civil matter. From a wetland regulatory standpoint. We were on the fence with this lot when it first came through because of the extensive wetlands contained on the property. We did try and strike that balance with allowing development of the parcel because the house could be located outside of the wetlands. And then because of the misinformation by the developer, the property owner has now had a fairly substantial encroachment into the wetlands. Based on what we saw, for those of us that were out there on Saturday, it's clear that as Shannon described, the swale is no longer a defined channel. So I think for restoration work, at a minimum, the swale would have to be reestablished so that there's a clear pathway for water to flow during the wet seasons. I would, for consistency with other actions, lean towards removal of the fill that was placed on the property. We could allow, if the fill was removed, we could allow, there's clearly some ruts from the equipment that were in the wetland area. I'd be fine if that was just hand raked and allowed to naturally revegetate. But I understand the property owner wants to use some of the wetland area as a lawn for understandable reasons. That should be the subject of an application before the commission. And then we can decide, given the unusual circumstances, if we would allow some of the disturbed area to be permanently converted into lawn area, or if the wetland line has to remain as a non-disturbed area. I think some flexibility to allow perhaps some of the area that is, and is the orientation is north up on this map?
No, nor, I believe it's mostly to the right-hand edge.
Okay, so I mean, there could be some flexibility. So the area west of the swale, perhaps there could be a compromise where some of that could be, there'd probably have to be some sort of retaining wall built to help level off, to provide a small lawn area on the house side of the swale. But I'd like to see the area that is below the swale to remain as undisturbed wetlands. And then the other thing we had talked about, and Shannon, you covered this, is the brush and the debris that's currently piled in the wetlands should be removed, and Shannon has provided the guidance that could go to the town's compost area. So those are my comments. I do feel bad for the property owner, but I think from a wetland regulatory standpoint, we would need an application if any of the material that was placed in the wetland is to remain. End of comments.
Okay, thanks, Robert. Mark?
I didn't have an opportunity to view the site, so I'm kind of blind about what needs to be done, and so I would just pass it this time, no questions.
Ned?
Yeah, I was kind of, you know, at the site meeting, this parcel is very small in regards to the area of area that was seeded. And the other thing was, I went up around the corner to see where this thing starts, and it's mostly just from 2 catch basins and, you know, some runoff upland a little bit. It was, you know, it was very dry. It seems like this is mostly a runoff swale, and I don't know if this is like, if I would consider this high quality wetland area. The other part that this property is right along the edge of the street. So I'm on the fence as to how much. To me, the most important thing regarding restoration is the clearing of the debris and the brush that was blocking the swale, and to reestablish a good flow area for swale when in the springs when we do get a little water here. But for the most part, this didn't seem, and the other thing we noticed that there'd been a history of debris, you know, being dropped on there from the adjacent property when it was a vacant lot, and that's been built up over time. And we didn't have any intentions of having that long history because it's already starting to degrade and become soil. But I don't know, I didn't feel strongly about how much restoration work needed to be done in the area. I think some plantings can be done in regards to trying to take out all the topsoil. I don't know, it kind of, what struck me most was how small that area was compared to, you know, some of the other ones we've dealt with when we've required, you know, soil scientists to come in and I mean, some of these we had vast areas that were disturbed, and this is like, you know, 40, 50 feet by 20 feet. So I don't know. I'm not sure about how you feel about requiring a soil scientist. I don't know if, it seems like our staff can maybe make some recommendations and try and get some of the restoration back, but I didn't see in regards to, I don't know if digging all this, that fill out was really warranted at this, based on how small the property was and the fact that it's really, only has sees, I think it sees water a very small period of time during the year, and obviously you need it when the rains come, but I don't think it's an important wetland area, really. That's my comment.
Okay, Jay?
Okay, so I don't really have any questions, but there's two things I want to say. I also want to reiterate what Robert said, that it's unfortunate that the homeowners were put in this situation through no fault of their own. I also would just say that I did get to review the site plan. I'm sorry, I mean the meeting notes. I'm sorry I couldn't be there Saturday. I actually have some personal situations that are going to make it difficult for me to go on sidewalks. I'm going to try my best. But other than just those two comments, I don't have anything else to share. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Shannon, I just want to try and get a clarification because I'm looking at the plans. It looks as though there is an 18-inch RCP going under the street and it goes to a low spot in the property. I'm assuming that now is, so that's
Correct.
within the property, so, and it's outside of the right-of-way, correct?
Correct. So this is the property line here.
Yep.
And wall, but the pipe opening is here inside the property. There is a depression at this location and some stone, and it takes this flow, and that is correct. It comes from some catch basins up at the top of Pond Street, and they flow. This swale flows between the properties that front on Pond and the properties behind that front on Pine Street. And it flows down through, and then through the pipe connects into this catch basin and meanders through the closed drainage system and out to the west to Lake Garda. So it ultimately discharges to Lake Garda, but it's not an immediate discharge, just a couple of blocks away at this point.
Okay, thank you. So I think kind of where I'm coming from this is probably pretty close to where Robert was coming from. I mean, I do think the swale needs to be delineated, so I think that's something that will need to be done. If that's pretty much been covered over, flattened, whatever, I think that is going to be something that needs to be addressed. I think I'm probably a little more concerned about the area to, I want to say, what is it, the east or southeast of the swale, and not so much maybe above it, like closer to the house. I think, Robert, that's what you were also talking about, that maybe, you know, that's an area we can think about, but I think we're probably going to have somebody come in and, you know, identify maybe some of the things that can be done. Again, I don't know if it's a matter of going in and changing around the plantings a little bit, if it's going in with some wetland vegetation, things of that nature. And like other people had said, I also agree. It's unfortunate of what you were told by the previous owner or the contractor. My heart goes out to you on that. But I think that, again, now what was on the site that was filled? I mean, was it mostly just like a wetland grass or something like that, or were there a lot of trees taken down?
Shrubs.
Mostly shrubs?
Mostly shrubs, and a lot of poison ivy, closer to the street.
Yeah, a lot of the trees, so Robert, or Bob, we had walked it prior for the original site walk, and there were, trees, but a lot of just thick underbrush. I have to dig out some of the photos. I didn't have a lot of photos. There were some, there were invasives. There was multiflora rose, I believe, through there. I remember the prickers and trying to get through that area. So it was mixed vegetation.
All right, but so in some respects, it doesn't sound like some of the other projects that we've seen where they've gone in and basically clear cut every tree on the site.
No.
This sounds like it's more brush related. So if there was some type of restoration plan on this, my guess is it would not be nearly as significant as some of the other projects that we've seen. And it might be that is a mixture of some bushes, some type of wetland grass that might work in that area. Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's probably the route that we're going to have to go. I think probably going to need to have somebody come in and take a look at it and give us some suggestions as to how they think the area can be restored, and again, to what extent. I mean, I'm not sure this is going to entail as much detail as we've had on other plans, but I think the primary focus is going to be restoring the swale, and then we can maybe deal with some of the wetlands mitigation or plant mitigation subsequent to that. But unfortunately, I think, to me, I think they're going to have to bring somebody in to do some of the work, and then unfortunately, it ends up being a civil matter. I mean, I'm more than happy to try to be somewhat flexible on this, but again,
Thank you.
we've been, fairly consistent on how we've looked at it, but it doesn't sound like we're looking at some of the same issues we've looked at on other properties where somebody's going in and clear cut it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Robert, could I interject here?
Sure.
Shannon, and I have a question for Shannon. I didn't get to see the site. Do you feel this area, this wetlands, is a functioning wetlands, or is it just a seasonal type situation where, like springtime or heavy rains, is active?
So, in my mind, two different things. They're tangential. So the water course, or swale, as it's labeled on the plan, would definitely be considered an intermittent water course, in that it's not flowing all the time. But there had been a recognizable path of water flow from point A to point B through the property, and evidence of sediment deposit that you would typically see with stormwater runoff. So it is the swale or intermittent water course is definitely highly associated with rainfall events and spring runoff. I have been there in February, March, and you've got the snow and rain, and it is running. There is a flow through that pipe and through, entering into the pipe and through that channel or swale on the property. With respect to the wetland delineation and the soils that are on site, I have not augured the soils. I didn't take a shovel out into the soils. However, given that, I think we were all a little surprised as we walked back on Saturday and to have the ground giving way under our footsteps a little bit, because it still had a moisture content to it that would be indicative that it is a wetland soil, and certainly not anything that we're currently seeing in our upland areas, given the drought that we are experiencing currently. But I have not dug in and done an analysis and looked at it. So from a wetland soil, and this was delineated at the time, many years ago now at this point, I want to say in 2015 or 16, this was delineated. The gentleman that owned this property also owned the properties behind on Pine Street, and this area was delineated all as one chunk, and he developed the Pine Street lots first and then came back and did Pond Street. The Pine Street lots did not require a wetland permit. I don't believe. That was before me. But the Pond Street did obviously require the wetland permit. So this wetland delineation was initially done by a soil scientist. I'd have to look back in the records because offhand I don't remember. I don't remember if it was David Lord or someone else.
Well, I understand what you just said kind of changed my thinking a little bit, because by the sponginess of the soil and everything kind of tells me it is something that needs to be protected. And I think with Bob and Robert, the swale needs to be reestablished because it's an important feature to that piece of property. But I think like Ned was referring to is, and I think Bob said a little bit too, this is not like one of our normal cases where somebody's gone in and did a lot of removal of vegetation. So I'm kind of leaning to, yes, the swale has to be recovered, but the mitigation or the restoration of this property, I'm not inclined to see a lot done besides some maybe plantings and reestablishment of the swale so the water flow can be contained. That's all.
Okay, so, I mean, unless other folks have some comments, Shannon, it sounds like somebody does need to come out and take a look at the property, identify how to reestablish the swale, take a look at the wetlands that are out there, and what is a reasonable path forward given the quality of the wetlands and what was previously there.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I'm hearing, I think. Does anybody else have anything further on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have one final comment. This is Robert.
Fine, go ahead.
Okay. Shannon, I'm not sure if you've had any dialogue within your office or potentially with the town's attorney as to whether or not there's any leverage that can be used on withholding the performance bond. But it's something, again, I'd like the record to reflect that the general consensus by the commission last month was that we were supportive of withholding release of the bond until this matter is resolved. If, based on your discussions with other staff and the town's attorney, if we have the ability to use that bond in any way for assessment or restoration, that would be something that I would support. And if we need to firm up the record, perhaps Attorney Auburn could work on providing an affidavit to firm up his client's comments, and I don't want to say claim, the fact that they were misled. And I think at the site walk on Saturday, there were some other people there that could also potentially provide file documentation that in fact we're having this dialogue because of the misrepresentation by the developer. So if that's something you could look into, Shannon, that'd be great. If you already have and we don't have the ability to withhold that bond or use that bond in any way, then I would understand that. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have something you want to say, Jay?
No, I don't.
Okay. No, I agree with Robert. I mean, if there's a way that if the bond is still open, if some of that can actually be utilized to help resolve the situation, that would be good. I think
Yeah,
that's something you'd have to look into.
Yes, I will. I'll discuss with Bruce regarding that further. We can hold it likely until the builder pushes or involved and requires our relinquish of it. I don't believe we have any authority to in another matter, even for restoration. But I will confirm with Bruce. We'll discuss it, see what latitude we have. But unfortunately, the requirements are fairly stringent as to how that bond can be used and how it can be released. So, yeah, unfortunately, it would be a civil matter. So we can hold it until they start to create a huge fuss and want it released. But I don't know that we can use it on our own volition. So, but I will confirm and get some specific feedback regarding that.
Would you be contacting just Bruce, or would you talk to Duncan as well?
I will start with Bruce, and
Okay.
we have a new land use attorney for Farmington. It is Robert. He is Robert DiCrescenzo with Updike Kelly Spellacy. So he started as of July 1st, and we've already been in touch with him on a variety of things. And
I can't imagine what you're talking about.
I worked with him in my previous life as well, so we were already well acquainted. So,
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, so he is an avenue as well. But I'll start with Bruce and we'll go from there. But just to confirm, so we make sure we've covered all bases.
Okay.
Okay. But I think I understand where everyone's coming from, and can certainly then help advise the homeowner with respect to what they're looking for. I just perhaps will give them an opportunity. Obviously, I will follow up with the homeowner tomorrow via email, and I can provide, while it's not an endorsement, I can provide a list of soil scientists that we see regularly. I can also track down the soil scientist that was involved in the flagging of this property originally and provide that information as a resource. And then we can go from there. And then I don't know if we want to hear from either Omar. I'm getting some comments from Jonathan, and so we can, yeah, Jonathan, obviously, yes, you will be copied. You and Eric will continue to be copied on all correspondence as we have. So, but I do want to provide them, since they have called in and they've listened. I just want to make sure, is there anything that you have a question on or don't understand that you want to discuss with the commission prior to us closing this matter for this evening? I want to make sure you've had an opportunity to be heard with respect to this. Jonathan, I can't hear you. I can see your...
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, no questions, just a comment. I know that there had been mention of the swale being disturbed, and there does seem to be, quite a bit of brush and debris that is in that swale. And I don't think in my conversations with the homeowner and Mr. Jones that there would be any issue with removing that. Now, you mentioned that it would have to be removed by hand, and I assume that's because you don't want any vehicles disturbing the soil and the wetlands. Is that correct?
Correct. To the extent that we can minimize, if somebody, pulls a pickup truck off the back edge of Pond Street and they're loading it in, that's fine. But to the extent we can minimize having bobcats and things of that nature back and forth over the area, the issue is, I know the brush was in here and we could start
Mm-hmm.
through the brush, we could see the swale. But once you got to, in this area, it was very, very difficult to see a defined soil pattern because of the number of tracks that were back
Right.
and forth. And so I don't want to make the situation worse. So, you know, and certainly, you know, if you back a pickup truck in somewhere so that you can really get the material out of there, that's fine. It's really, let's try to keep the bobcats out of there for now.
Okay.
That type of machinery.
And I did just want to mention to the commission that the area of the swale, I think just by the RCP there, that area seemed pretty well defined, the area outside the driveway. It just seemed to be the area outside the 264-foot circle there that seemed to be kind of tamped down.
Correct. Yeah, I would tend to agree. It's somewhere roughly, you know, not having a GPS unit with me, it's roughly from somewhere up in this neighborhood down to somewhere around here.
Okay.
Where that just needs to get redefined.
Got it.
But typically what will happen is, and what I would suggest, again, I can provide the list of soil scientists to try to get you started. Again, they're simply ones that have been before us and are familiar. It's not an endorsement in any way. You're welcome to use whomever you'd like to. So if you have someone you're familiar with, Jonathan, in your practice using others, that's fine. Typically, one of the first things the soil scientist does, though, is give me a call to say, okay, can I get the rundown? What's going on? What are you guys looking for? What's the type of, where's this going? And so we talk about that and walk through that. Obviously, you have the benefit now, you know, it's not just meeting notes. These meetings are recorded and the recordings are posted online. So they'll be able to hear everything verbatim just from this conversation, which they should find very enlightening. I think it'll be, if a soil scientist were to listen to this, they'd have a clear understanding as to what the commission is looking for and how to proceed.
Okay.
And certainly, obviously, any of them are welcome to give me a call.
So at this point, it's primarily coming up with a restoration plan and submitting that to the commission for approval.
Correct. And understanding, you know, the commission continues to meet every 2 weeks. So we meet again in October.
October 7th.
October 7 is the next meeting, and then 21. So October 7 may be ambitious to have a plan in place, but certainly by then, I would expect that you have at least been in contact with a few in our soliciting proposals and perhaps have even selected one by October 7th, and by October 14th, we're starting to move in a positive direction. The quicker you folks move, then we're still in a position where this could get planted in the fall and allow any plantings to stabilize. Otherwise, we get too far into November, then this planting is going to wait until the spring, and then everything delays, because the other thing that we'll ask for is typically a 3-year monitoring period. We just want to, and it's an annual monitoring to make sure that the plants that have been installed remain healthy and are maturing and are being tended to, and that the conditions that have been agreed to as part of this are continuing to be met. So typically, and that's standard with any restoration project that the commission has had, is a 3-year monitoring.
And as you mentioned, Shannon, we are getting into the darker and cooler months of the year. You know, I would be kind of reluctant to implement a plan this late in the season. If we can present a restoration plan by, say, the 21st, could that be acted on by the board or approved by the board, and then, you know, implemented in the spring, perhaps, where it would be more likely to take?
It can be considered. I think we'll address that timing as it comes, and part of it will depend on the weather and how things. Honestly, we find if you can get it in the fall, you're going to have a much higher success rate than trying to do it in the spring, because in the spring we go from it being very muddy to being very dry. And so we can have trouble in the spring with getting these implemented, and then it becomes, the plantings typically have to be babied more because they need more watering, more tending to, and just a little more hands-on attention. But we can take that as it comes, depending upon once we get a final plan, and then what seems reasonable at that time, and even the planting material that's available at that time. So we can certainly leave that open for discussion at the time.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
If I could, I just have a quick comment. I mean, one of the things that I found over the years is water tends to go where water wants to go. So if there's any chance of at least getting the swale in, that to me would probably be an advantage come the spring. And so if you can get that in now, because we start getting the rains and the intermittent stream happens to be flowing, who knows where the water is going to go. So for the property owner just trying to protect their own property, you know, that may be something that you want to look at too. I mean, we can look at what you were proposing. You know, maybe it's a two-phase process, but I think the sooner you can get the swale in, the better off you are, because it's going to take a lot of the balance of the property out of the equation in terms of potential problems. And I don't think anybody here wants to exacerbate the problem. So, you know, if it's at least getting the swale in so that the water is being directed a certain path, that may be a lot better than letting it just free flow over the yard.
And that would consist mostly of removing that brush that's presently blocking the swale. Correct.
But you've got to reform this channel, because right now the ruts are going perpendicular to it. So right now, if you had a heavy rain, it's not going to follow a defined. It will ultimately create its own new defined path. But you're going to want a little bit of control over that.
Yeah.
This is Mark. I agree with Bob. I think the swale, you know, putting it in place is an important item to do. The dryness that we're experiencing now will not last forever, so I feel there will be heavy rains sometime in the near future.
So everybody's pretty clear where we're going from here?
Yep, I will
Yes.
tomorrow, if not tomorrow, then by Friday, before the end of the week. An email will go, Jonathan and Omar, to you folks, to the email chain that we've been using for this, so that everybody has the information at the same time.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, give Shannon a call at the office.
Okay. Yes, I will.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And again, sorry about the issue.
No, I understand. I understand. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, what I've got 1179. Let's see who's on. Let's make a deal here. All right, I don't have, interesting. I don't have Mr. Gusty. Okay. I guess it's just us folks tonight for this. There is somebody, so Mr. Hayes, I can see you on attendees. If you wish to speak about this, you can raise your hand. Otherwise, I'll assume you're just listening. Hand raised. Okay, go ahead. You got to unmute yourself.
Okay. I don't know about our video. What happened to our video?
You can see.
No, we don't have control of the video. We have control of the microphone, but the video is off. And we thought you were.
Because I hadn't, because, is this George?
This is George, yes.
And I'm
Okay,
with,
sorry.
and this is Bill Shannon, I'm with him.
Okay, there was no way for me to know that, because you guys did not sign in how you normally have been signing in under your login. So I can promote you to panelist. So I didn't realize that's how you were calling in. Because you would have had your links as you normally do, so.
All right, here we are.
Yeah. So, okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I guess I don't know if at this particular point, if you want a run-through of the documents that George had submitted at the end of last week. We could do that. I have them available. I don't have them all open at the moment, but it would take me just a moment to open them. And then there's the third-party review process that we discussed. So I don't know if the commission members have had a chance to look at the documents that were emailed.
I will go on record that I have not had an opportunity to review them.
Okay. So
I think, you know, where we're at right now is Shannon has checked out some interest in terms of whether or not the independent third-party consultant is or is not available, and it looks as though there are some that may be interested in the project. I think with all of the information that came in, you know, they've got some information they can look at to try and give an idea as to if they really are interested. I'm assuming we're looking at pricing on it also, the scope of the work, things of that nature, correct?
correct. And so that's really the summary that I had put together, and I emailed out literally at 5:30 this afternoon. And so this is a listing of the consultants, contacted a few that were not for reasons that were noted. We've got 3 that have expressed interest: Malone McBroom, Ty and Bond, and Ed Pollock. And so with that, then what I'm doing at the moment is trying to get a Dropbox put together with the information so that I'm not having to email, you know, 10 plus emails to each of these individuals with all the documents that have come in. But my thought on the documents to be shared would be all the documents prepared and submitted by George to date, the survey documents that were submitted, again, this came in, the updated ones came in on Friday on the Plant 17 title block. Our correspondence with the Army Corps of Engineers, including emails, and then of course, a copy of the cease and desist order would be, you know, these are the relevant documents to share with the commission, or with these consultants. Actually, I need to add to this. We'll include the wetland delineation for the Mormon temple.
It helps us, minimizes.
And then the scope of services is outlined below that I would ask these consultants to submit a proposal on, and including fees, so that we have some basis for making, you know, fee and perhaps qualifications. Review all of the documents, conduct at least this one site visit, reviews the mitigation versus restoration strategy, provide written opinion of site observations, documents reviewed, and the strategy, attendance at 3 Inland Wetland Commission meetings, and then provide a fee for additional site visits and additional meeting participation should we find them necessary. So I realize perhaps some of you haven't even had a chance to see this document because, again, I literally just sent it at the end of the day. But my intent would be is that I would like to get this portion moving with the 3 consultants noted above. And so I would like some feedback. If you have any immediate thoughts, I'm certainly welcome to hear those. And then if there's any other consideration, you know, we'll take comments tomorrow and Friday, but by Friday I'd like to have this ball back in the consultant's court so that we can get this process moving along.
Shannon, one of the things that I'm looking at is on the requested scope of services, number 3, where review mitigation versus restoration strategy. To me, there could be a combination of that. I mean, the way I'm reading that, it's one or the other, and I don't think that's the intent.
Okay. That's fair.
So I guess we'll continue in the normal order. Rich, any comments? I mean, I know we're just seeing this, but anything popping out to you that we need to add or modify?
No, I don't have any comments or questions. It all looks sort of reasonable to me. I'll have to admit I haven't read everything that was submitted. I'm kind of picking my way through it, but that's my comments.
Understood. Dave?
I haven't had time to read it all either, but I get a good way through it. It looks like the scope of services is really what we need. Have an expert look at this stuff too. All I can say at this.
Okay. Robert?
Yeah, I also have not made it through all of the materials. There was a lot that was provided, but I am working my way through it. Shannon, I appreciate you putting together the proposal. I did see it before the meeting. It looks good. I don't have any additional comments, and I agree with the other comments that the additional third-party input will be useful for the commission. End of comments.
Okay. Mark?
I am not prepared to make comments at this point. More documents need to be read.
Understood. Ned?
Just to reiterate that I think it's the right call to bring in an independent consultant to review this and get their opinion as we try and make our final opinion.
Okay. Jay?
I'm trying to make my way through all these documents, and most importantly, and I'm sorry to say this, try to really comprehend and understand everything. So other than that, I really don't have anything to offer. Thank you.
Okay.
This
I think Shannon, you know, this is.
I have one other question
let's
about
start on it. Sorry, Ned, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I had one other question about, were we going to do an additional site meeting in like October or wait to do it maybe with this consultant or?
We can, we can, why don't we, do we want to finish our thoughts on this and then we can come back around to whether or not we want another site walk in the fall, and then we can hear from their consultants briefly.
One more request, yeah, is when you put together a Dropbox or whatever you call it on all the documents, because these documents have been coming in piecemeal, you know, if we had one place, if the board, the commission had access to that, I think it would be helpful. At least it would be helpful to me when you put it together for the consultants.
Okay. Let me see what I can do for that, yep.
So my take is we're on the right path. It's going to be a matter of getting somebody that has the time and the capability of undertaking the activities. So I thank you for your time in putting this together, Shannon.
Sure.
I don't know if George or the attorney have any comments they want to make?
We had a chance to review it. It looks very good. It looks appropriate. Obviously, it may change, with some input by the third-party consultant. That's to be expected. That's fine. Mr. Hannon, I believe you had said that you're going in for some rehab work and you wanted to do the walk early in October. So,
Well, my surgery right now is scheduled for October 28th.
yeah, so, I mean, there might want to be some consideration whether you want to wait until afterwards when you could go with a third-party consultant or maybe go twice. Go
Well,
once before and then once after, but.
yeah, again, that's kind of getting back to Ned's comment and sort of where I would be leaning. I mean, if I can make the site visit, I can make it. If I can't, I can't. But I think it would be important to have some idea from the third-party consultant to show us something so that we can go out to the site and actually see what they're talking about. That to me, I think is probably more important because you can look at maps and things, but unless you go out to the site, it's a little more difficult to really get a good visual and a full understanding of what's being proposed. So to me, that would be more critical of going out there at a point in time when there's something to look at and you can take the maps out on site and get a better understanding of what's being proposed.
All right, we'll just see how that plays out then with the timing. George is available to go out with expects to go out with the third party review person and act as a guide or explain his project in detail if need be too.
Okay.
Okay. So it sounds like Bob, then we're really gonna want the third-party person to budget for at least 2 site visits. One with George, at least initially, to get a handle on the site and what was done from an orientation standpoint, and then perhaps, they can stay longer and peruse the area on their own. And then a second site visit with the commission.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my take. And I don't know, Ned, if you agree with that kind of a position, because I don't think much has changed on the site from what we first saw. But I think it's probably more important to be out at the site with the consultant, looking at what they're proposing to get a better handle on what's in front of us.
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Okay, that's fine.
Wait till November, the foliage is gonna be down too.
So we pretty much covered there then?
I think so, and I'm gonna assume at this point, we don't need a presentation or a run-through on any of the documents that were emailed on Friday at this particular point in time, unless somebody wants that.
And it's also 3 weeks to the next meeting.
It is.
So this is one of those positive times to have that third week.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay. So why don't we'll go ahead, we'll review the documents ourselves, and hopefully by then I've made some progress with the third-party consultant, and then we'll reconvene 3 weeks from now to see where we are with things.
Okay.
I just have a question of procedure, if I could. Are you gonna need to come back to a meeting and vote on the third party consultant, or is that something Shannon can go ahead and do? Can you delegate that to her? What's your procedure on that?
Well, we're 3 weeks to the next meeting. It's gonna be probably the end of the week by the time I get everything uploaded to the Dropbox. It's been one of those weeks, and I've got to work with IT on getting everything done properly. I was going to give them at least 2 weeks to respond and get the proposal pulled together. So at that point, we're right into the next meeting anyhow. So
Okay.
so that a decision's going to need to be made in the absence of the commission.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Okay. All right.
Planners report?
Yep, and I think the homeowner was on. She's been very patient. She's
Yep, she's there.
still here. Anna, are you here?
I am. Hi, how are
Thank
you?
You have been incredibly patient. Thank you.
problem.
Okay, I am going to start, and then the homeowner is here for questions, clarifications if needed. So just briefly, this is the application for the pool, pool here, that's the house, this is the pool, at 45 Portage Crossing that was discussed at the meeting on September 2nd, so 2 weeks ago, and it was Giuliano Pools, put the fence in, have this, the pool and some grading out around, and there were trees that needed to come out. This area, somewhere in this area here was the tree line for the property as it exists right now.
Get it.
To extend some usable yard area for their family. Still leaving some of the mature, the intent isn't to remove all of the mature growth along the street line because the cul-de-sac for Wakefield Lane, which is behind their home, is here. So the intent isn't to come all the way through. They are looking to just clean up some of the underbrush, but it does require a few more trees being removed and then the planting of grass. They had initially contemplated a berm, and I was out at the property with the homeowner, I want to say last week. The one day that it rained last week, that's when Anna and I were out, about as far away from the house as you can get. When it downpours. And anyhow, we got talking about the berm and the dimensional requirements for a berm because, you know, until you start to construct one of these, you don't necessarily realize that for every 1 foot up you come, you've got a 3-to-1 slope out both sides. So now your 1 foot high berm is approximately 6 feet wide. And for every foot you go up, that distance starts to increase. And when she realized that and realized that you really can't wind this berm in along these trees that have some substantial growth to them, she indicated, no, we don't want to do the berm. What they do want to do is put a privacy fence in, and the privacy fence you easily could get in because it's very much a wooded area with some understory growth, but it's shrub type stuff, and there's a bunch of different. It's not robust understory growth. So the privacy fence could go in without being detrimental to the mature growth and without having to clear out all the undergrowth. And then if they wanted to, they could plant some additional evergreen type trees on their side of the fence and then have a little bit more usable yard. So it's back before you under planner's report because I didn't want this to come as a surprise as folks are out and about in various neighborhoods, and because this is a little more clearing than had been discussed at the previous meeting. It is showing, you know, this clearing area with respect to the wetland. The intent really isn't to come that far. It's probably going to hold a good 20, if this is 60 feet, it's going to hold a good 25 feet off that wetland line. So I wanted to put that out to the commission. Anna, have I correctly captured what you and your husband are looking to do?
Yes, definitely. I think that really sums it up. I think we really don't want to get rid of all the older trees that are in the back. We want them for privacy. We actually are very sad to have to cut any of them down. We just wanted to expand the yard a little bit, that's all.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I open up to the commission if there's any concerns, questions, need for a change in direction on anything. I felt it was enough. Again, as I said to Anna, I said, as we've seen with some of these other projects, we very quickly trip into there being a enforcement action, right? Because we don't know what we don't know. And so I wanted to make sure everybody was clear, and that they were clear that, you know, this is a hard line that we can't trip into so that we don't end up in enforcement action. So.
Rich, any comments?
I don't have any issue with what's being proposed. I kind of like to hear some kind of a 25-foot distance from the wetlands that we try and stick to, but I'm open to suggestions. That's my comment.
Okay. Dave?
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned that rectangle does get pretty close to the wetlands. Yeah, I agree. We should set up something that no clearing within some certain feet of the wetlands. Maybe 25 is the right number. I'm not sure. Okay.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Robert?
I concur. I'm fine with some additional clearing to, create some more usable lawn that's consistent with the normal, right as a house, even under the Wetlands Act. But I would, as the other commissioners have said, like to see a defined buffer remaining to the wetlands, so there's no disturbance or encroachment. Now, I would leave that to the discretion of Shannon to come up with that balance. But I think, as some of the other commissioners have said, 20 feet, 25 feet sounds more than fair. End of comment.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
I agree with the same thing. The property owner has expressed not to get rid of some of these trees because they like the privacy, they like the buffer, but, that means they don't want it. Doesn't mean somebody in the future might want to cut them down. So I think setting up something that is defined as an area that no one can touch for now and forever is a good idea. That's it.
Okay. Jay?
Yeah, I'll go. Well, what about Ned? But I'll go ahead and agree. I always, get concerned when I hear about tree removal, but I think it's with the right intent, and it's going to be advantageous for the property owner. So I guess it's okay. That's really all I have to offer. Thanks.
Sorry, Ned.
No problem. Yeah, I think as long as we kind of stay away from that wetlands line, some safe distance that the town decides, I think I'm all right with it.
I mean, the one thought that popped into my mind is by going back and clearing the area and putting in more grass can possibly mean more chemicals with the lawn. So I'm just wondering if this is something that we can also get an integrated pest management plan for, if it's worth it. I'll just throw that out. Because
I can share documents with her, so that's easy enough to do. So I can absolutely share the documents.
yeah, because I just think, again, people have been talking about how close the activity would be to the wetlands. And again, one of the issues that we've constantly looked at is with wetlands and people having lawns and applying chemicals to the lawns, it leaches off and gets into the wetlands. So I think that for me is probably the bigger issue.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? And I apologize as I'm not sure exactly what's allowed and what's not allowed. So we have an existing irrigation system and we're going to want to put the irrigation system in that area because it's been torn up completely by the pool company. So is that something we would also have to get approval? Should I mention that while we're doing this now?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's good to have it on the record.
Yeah.
So,
It's on the record now, so you're all set.
yep.
But But, yeah, basically, once, if the commission's agreed to, that this can be cleared to use as lawn, then from our point of view, you can continue to use this as you would, basically, for the most part, any other lawn area within your property. So shed, play yards for kids. It's just, if you had to do excavation again, I don't know, you were putting in a very large shed that had a foundation or a detached garage or something, and we were doing major excavation back there, then you would be back in for a permit with the commission.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay. All right, I think I understand, and we can, Bruce and I can go out and do tape measure a little bit to get, you know, a decent idea on a 20 to 25 foot mark, and I can share the integrated pest management principles with Anna so that they have that for, basically it's about using organic fertilizers and minimizing the amount of processed chemicals that are used to maintain the lawn. So it's helpful too with, you know, for families and the general use of the lawn on a regular basis anyway.
Yes, you understand what we were talking about and what we're looking for, so should be fine.
Okay. All righty. And we went through everybody, right? So no other questions, we're good?
I'm good.
Hearing none. Okay. Anna, we are all set. I will follow up with you tomorrow then, okay?
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. That's it. Other than, what we got, planners report, or more I got more planners comments. These are more announcements than anything. So Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day is October 17th at the Simsbury Public Works Facility at 66 Town Forest Road from 8 to 1. There's also the shredding takes place and all the electronic recycling takes place. Bulk waste collection is the week of October 19th to 23rd on your regular trash collection day. And the annual support for Kakiwik, I was able to confirm that will be processed by the town of Farmington. I have to finish the paperwork and get it to finance, but I confirmed that that will be supported this year. So we're set from that standpoint. And that's all I have.
Have you heard anything about a Kakiwik meeting this year?
I got online because I had to check with all the virtual meeting. I can send everyone the link for that so you can take a look yourselves, and I can put a little summary in an email. But yeah, my understanding is it's not being held in person this year.
Okay, just curious because usually that's in November.
Correct.
Okay. So is that your planners report?
Yes, sir.
Okay, next item on the agenda is approval of minutes of September 2nd, 2020, and the site walk minutes of September 12th, 2020. Can somebody make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve both minutes. That's
A
that.
second? Who was that?
Dave.
Okay.
Dave? Yeah.
So any comments, questions? Rich?
Nope.
Dave?
What's up?
Robert?
I'm all set.
Mark?
I'm good.
Ned?
It's all good.
Jay?
I'm good. I was prepared to second, but since I wasn't at the sidewalk, I don't think I can second something I wasn't at. So since you did them together, I'm out of luck, and Dave is in luck. That's it.
And I'm fine with them also. So have a motion to approve the minutes. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Approved. So 8:48, we'll close Wetlands, and we will start the Conservation Commission. And I don't have a copy of the agenda in front of me, but I don't believe there's a whole lot that would be on it.
You are correct, Mr. Hannon. So the first item is land acquisition, but I don't think they didn't meet in September, right? So, but what may be of interest to the commission and is certainly on the staff's radar screen, there was a large tract of property on Maria Road that has been for sale. On the north part of Maria Road, and there had been an ice house, like back in the day, there was an ice house, but the property runs from Maria Road almost all the way up to the back edge of Snowberry Cobble, all the way out to from 177 to the Bristol Town Line, opposite like Tall Timbers and Old Pond. And that property has, our understanding is it has transferred hands to a developer. There are significant wetlands on the property. I don't know if the transfer is 100% yet, and if it's in the land records as of yet. But we are expecting that we will be seeing a residential development there, and we are, again, it's something that we just to keep on our radar screens and will be of interest should it move ahead. It also could just be held and sit for a number of years too, so which that happens all the time as well. So.
And given the size of the site, my guess is there will be a significant impact. I'm just guessing at that, but there's a lot of water out there and
Right.
beaver dams.
There's a bunch of stuff, so it'll be an interesting one. But again, it could go either way. It may sit for a while as well too. These things have a tendency to,
And my guess, it would have to sit for a while for them to do a thorough analysis of the property. I mean, environmental, wetlands, everything else.
Correct. Yep. So there's that. We've got one last knotweed clearing at the ball field this weekend, and see how that project's coming along. And I think that's it from any other type of information. So I think that's it.
And then is the other one the minutes?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the minutes of September 2nd, 2020 for Conservation Commission?
So moved. Mark.
Is there a second?
Second, Robert.
Okay, I'm not even going to look for discussion on this one. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? And we'll call it quits at 8:52.
One thing, Shannon, when is that knotweed clearing, the last one?
Saturday morning, we're going to start at 8:30 and go. My guess is we did a pretty thorough clearing. I think it was the end of July or early August. So I haven't had a chance. I was hoping to get to the site today, and I didn't get a chance to swing over. So I can take a look. I got to take a look to see what we're up against, but hopefully not as bad as we had earlier this year.
Okay.
Okay.
And Shannon, it was good to see that the town of Farmington has signed on to DEEP's Connecticut Coalition for Sustainable Materials Management, a coalition of municipalities to work together to look at alternatives should the resource recovery facility in Hartford that Farmington has sent its waste to for 30 years cease to operate in the near future. There would be a plan in place by municipalities. So it was good to see that Farmington signed on to that. And I'll also say that Simple Recycling has done a much better job. They were able to pick up my bag today and leave me a new bag.
Fabulous. We got both ends of the equation taken care of. That's great.
And then once again, Sandy and Shannon, thanks. It's another month has gone by as you continue to deal with short staffing and the complications of working in a COVID environment. So thanks. We appreciate all the work that you're doing for us.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling we'll be operating remotely for a while. Town council has been back in, but I think it's gonna be a little bit before the land use are all back together and figure out a way to do this, so that it's functioning for the commission, the applicant, and the public, so.
Well, maybe we can do what some of the baseball parks are doing. They're taking cardboard cutouts and putting them in the seats. And then we could just talk remotely.
I don't know if anyone noticed this, but I saw Queen Elizabeth at one of the games. And I just want to say real quickly, and this is not a real significant comment, but it was nice to be able to actually join you and speak and not have to type furiously into the chat box tonight like I did at the last meeting.
I don't know if I'm going to agree with that one, but whatever.
Well, you know, I'm just trying to put my two cents in wherever I can, Ned, you know?
Well, I'll say this is the first meeting I've had this week with either Zoom or Teams where I haven't felt like I was in a Godzilla movie or watching a Godzilla movie. And I mean, I could see,
oh my God,
like I could see Rich's lips moving, Dave's lips moving, then Robert would start to talk, but then I'd hear Rich. The delay was amazing, but this one went well. So whatever you did, Shannon, I appreciate it.
Well, it's nice when technology works well for everyone, and sometimes you fire on all cylinders, and it's a good thing.
Yeah. I think the only thing I'd like to ask people if they can make sure of for the next meeting to go through all the paperwork, if you can, for the, was it 1179 Farmington Avenue site, just so we've got a better idea as to where we're going with this. So hopefully there's enough time and they don't submit another dump, you know, like 2 days before the next meeting.
If I can get a if I can get a Dropbox set up that everyone can access, then I will certainly do that, and I'll provide the link then in case that's just an easier, more succinct way for folks to obtain that information and store. So
receiving information in dribs and drabs can't be a lot of fun for you either. So you know.
Well, you know, we won't even get into what my email box looks like, so it's all good.
I can only imagine.
All right, we all
All
set?
right, well, everybody have a good one and stay safe.
Thank you all.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.